1734/strong/heart, surprised face. You ever walk into a place and feel the air shift, like you just stepped on someone's shadow without meaning to? That's what it was like the first time I saw Lena Carter at Ironwood Proving Grounds, this dusty military base out in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. She was just there, crouched by a weapons rack, tinkering with an M4 like it was a puzzle she'd solved 1,000 times before, and I swear, nobody else noticed her until they did. It was a scorching July morning, the kind where the heat sticks to your skin like regret, and the range was alive with the usual chaos soldiers barking orders, bolts clicking, brass hitting the ground like loose change. Lena was off to the side, a contractor in a faded olive tank top, her work jacket slung low over one arm, wiping carbon off a rifle barrel with this quiet, surgical focus. She didn't look up, didn't chat, didn't care about the sweat rolling down her neck. To most of the guys, she was just the gun cleaner, some civilian who probably got the gig through a favor or a sob story. That's what Sergeant Jake Harlan thought, anyway. Big guy, loud voice, the kind of grin that says he's already decided you're not worth his time. "Hey, Carter," he called out, tossing a rag soaked with gun oil onto her bench. "You missed a spot on the latrine door yesterday. Need a map to find it?" The range chuckled, a few younger guys snickering like they'd just heard the punchline of the year. Lena didn't flinch, didn't even look up, just kept working, her hands moving like they knew the rifle better than the guy who carried it. That's when it happened. Her jacket slipped a little further, and there it was, inked into her shoulder like a secret carved in stone. A skull, a trident, an anchor, and 3 names etched below it, clear as a warning shot. SEAL Team 6. The laughter died. Fast. You don't just walk around with a tattoo like that, not out here. Not unless you've walked through hell and come out the other side with scars to prove it. A private 2 benches down froze, his cleaning rod halfway through a barrel. His buddy whispered, "No way, man, you see that?" Heads turned, one by one, like a ripple moving through still water. Even the air felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. And then, from the catwalk above, came the sound of boots, slow, deliberate, not the kind you ignore. General Nathan Voss stepped into view, a 4-star legend with a chest full of ribbons and a stare that could cut steel. He stopped dead, his eyes locked on Lena's arm, and for a second, I thought I saw him flinch. Voss wasn't the type to flinch. 3 tours in Iraq, a Silver Star for dragging his squad out of a burning Humvee didn't spook easy. But he was spooked now, and he was coming down the stairs. Lena didn't notice, or maybe she didn't care. She was still crouched, tightening a scope, her braid tucked behind one ear, her focus absolute. Voss hit the range floor, his boots echoing like a judge's gavel, and every soldier in that clearing went still. He stopped 3 paces from her, close enough to see the ink up close, and I swear, the man looked like he'd just seen a ghost. "Chief Carter," he said, his voice low, reverent, like he was naming a saint. Lena's head turned, slow, her eyes meeting his, and there was something in them, recognition, maybe, or just caution. Voss raised his hand, a perfect salute, not the kind you give out of protocol, but the kind you give when you owe someone your life. The range was silent now, not even a whisper. Jake Harlan, still standing there with his smug grin fading, scoffed. "What is this, some kind of prank?" Lena stood up, her movements smooth, deliberate, like she was sizing up a threat. She met Harlan's eyes and said, "Cold as steel, those names. One of them died saving you." And just like that, the whole base felt like it tilted on its axis. Let me back up, because you need to understand who Lena Carter was before she was just the woman in the tank top. She wasn't always a myth whispered about in mess halls or a name scratched out of classified files. Back when she was 22, Lena was a nobody from a small town in Montana, the kind of place where the biggest news is a new stoplight. But she was different, stronger, sharper, the kind of kid who could outshoot her dad's hunting buddies by 15 and outrun them by 16. When she signed up for Naval Special Warfare, the recruiters didn't know what to make of her. A woman? In the SEAL pipeline? They threw everything at her: grueling PT, psych evals, the crucible, this 72-hour hellscape of no sleep, no food, just you and the wilderness. They wanted her to quit. She didn't. On day 2, when the temps dropped below freezing, they found her at an extraction point, cooking a squirrel over a tin can fire. She looked up, shrugged, and said, "Better than my last camping trip." That's when the higher-ups started paying attention, not because they wanted her to succeed, but because they couldn't stop her. Lena became a shadow, a name on a roster that didn't officially exist. They called her Phantom 7, part of a Black Ops unit so covert it didn't have a flag, just a purpose. Go where no one else could, do what no one else would, and disappear before the smoke cleared. Her last mission, Operation Nightshade, was supposed to be clean slip into a war zone near the Syrian border, grab a rogue operative selling intel to a militia, get out. Simple, right? Except someone in a suit back in DC screwed it up, moved the evac point, didn't tell the team about enemy movement. It was a killbox. 3 of her team, Lucas Kane, Ethan Morse, Caleb Dunn, went down in the first 20 minutes. Caleb took a bullet dragging Lena out of a sniper's crosshairs. She fought her way out, knife in one hand, pistol in the other, carrying Caleb's body for a mile until the chopper forced her to let go. She came back with their blood on her face, their names on her heart. The Navy offered her a Distinguished Service Cross. She told them to keep it. "Medals are for graves," she said. "I carry the weight." 6 days later, she was gone, resigned, erased, a ghost with a tattoo and a past no one was supposed to know. Back at Ironwood, though, that past was catching up. Jake Harlan wasn't just some loudmouth sergeant, had his own reasons for pushing Lena's buttons. He'd been at the base for years, climbing the ranks, earning respect the hard way, and he didn't like outsiders, especially ones who didn't fit his idea of a soldier. To him, Lena was an insulta civilian contractor who didn't salute, didn't march, didn't belong. He'd heard the rumors about her tattoo, but he didn't buy it. Probably got it in some tattoo parlor to impress her boyfriend. He'd mutter to his squad, and they'd laugh because that's what you do when your sergeant sets the tone. But Lena? She didn't care. She'd show up at 0430 before the sun even thought about rising, park her beat-up Jeep in the farthest lot, and walk to the armory with a metal case and a silence that felt heavier than the rifle she cleaned. Harlan decided to test her, though, and he didn't play fair. One morning, he dropped an old SR-25 rifle on her bench, chipped and battered like it had been through a war and a half. "Let's see what you got, Carter," he said, loud enough for the whole range to hear. "Fix this piece of junk. Call it professional development." The guys chuckled, expecting her to fumble. Lena didn't even blink. She picked up the rifle, turned it over once, her eyes scanning it like a doctor reading an X-ray. "Gas tubes bent, 3 degrees off," she said, her voice calm, like she was reading a grocery list. "You've been running cheap steel rounds, probably 700 through it," scored the port. "Buffer springs shot, mounts loose, stress fractures here and here." She tapped the receiver twice. "Trigger groups caked in dust. You left it chambered in a sandstorm, didn't you? This thing's not just dirty, it's dying." The room went quiet. Harlan tried to laugh it off, but it came out weak, like a cough. She hadn't even opened the rifle. She just knew. That should have been the end of it, but Harlan wasn't the type to back down. He doubled down instead, set her up for the armory Evil Alive inspection in front of senior command. He'd rigged 3 rifles with subtle flaws, a mismatched bolt, a loose pin, a trigger group assembled backward just enough to pass a quick check, but fail under fire. He wanted her to crash and burn, wanted everyone to see she was a fraud. Except she didn't. Lena walked into the inspection bay, calm as a lake at dawn, and checked each weapon with her hands and eyes. No notes, no hesitation. On the second rifle, she paused. "Wrong locking lug, too short," she said. "This bolts from a different lock and a fracture under recoil." The inspector raised an eyebrow, checked his clipboard, and nodded. By the third rifle, the room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Harlan's jaw was tight, his plan falling apart. And then it happened. Lena leaned forward, her tank top shifted, and that tattoo was out in the open. Skull, trident, anchor, 3 names. Lucas Kane, Ethan Morse, Caleb Dunn. A corporal snapped a photo, uploaded it to the base's internal chat. 7 minutes later, it was on General Voss's tablet. Voss was in his office when he saw it, and I swear, the man nearly dropped his coffee. He knew that ink, knew the shoulder it was on. He'd seen it years ago, in a field hospital in Mosul, when Phantom 7 pulled his team out of an ambush that should have been their end. He tapped his earpiece. "Clear my schedule," he said. "Get me to the armory. Now." When he showed up, the eval was wrapping up, and the soldiers were whispering, their eyes on Lena like she was a puzzle they couldn't solve. Voss didn't hesitate. He walked straight through the crowd, past the salutes, past the base commander trying to keep up, and stopped in front of her. "Chief Petty Officer Lena Carter," he said, his voice carrying like a rifle shot. "Phantom 7, sole survivor of Operation Nightshade." The words hit like a grenade. Soldiers froze. A SEAL recruit dropped his mag. Voss didn't stop. "She's the reason I'm standing here," he said, turning to the crowd. "Her team saved mine in Mosul. Pinned down, no air support, no way out. She took out 4 hostiles, dragged my lieutenant half a mile under fire, and vanished before we could say a word." He looked at Lena, his eyes steady. "I've waited 12 years to salute you, Chief." And he did, right there, a 4-star general saluting a woman in a tank top. That's when it clicked for Jake Harlan. One of those names on her arm. Caleb Dunn wasn't just a name to him. Caleb was his brother, not by blood, but by choice. They'd grown up together, shared beers, shared dreams of serving. Caleb was the one who taught Jake how to tie a proper knot, how to hold a rifle steady, how to keep going when the world felt too heavy. When Caleb died, all Jake got was a folded flag and a letter that said classified. No answers, no closure, just a hole in his chest he'd been carrying for years. And now, standing there, watching Voss salute Lena, he realized she was the one who'd carried Caleb's body, who'd fought to bring him home. The woman he'd mocked, belittled, tried to break. She was the last person to see his brother alive. Jake didn't move for a long time after that. He stood by the staging area, watching Lena pack her tools, watching Voss climb back into his SUV, watching the soldiers disperse like they'd just seen something holy. His chest felt tight, not with anger, but with something heavier: grief, shame, the weight of being wrong about someone. That night, he found her behind the armory, sitting on a crate, cleaning a sniper bolt in the fading light. She didn't look up when he approached. "I didn't know," he said, his voice rough. "I didn't know it was you. That you were with Caleb." Lena's hands didn't stop, but her eyes flicked up, calm, unreadable. "I looked for answers," Jake went on. "For years. They told us nothing. Just a flag and a sorry. I thought someone let him die." Lena stood, slow, the tattoo catching the last of the sunlight. "He didn't die for nothing," she said. "He made sure we got out." Jake's throat tightened. "He'd have followed you anywhere," he said. "I know him." Lena nodded, "Just once." "He did." Jake didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't deserve it, but he asked for something else. "If you're teaching anyone here, I want in," he said. Lena studied him, not as a sergeant, not as the guy who'd thrown rags at her, but as someone who'd lost what she'd lost. "Start over," she said. "No ego, no shortcuts." He nodded, and she handed him the sniper bolt, still unfinished. "Build it right," she said, "before you try to lead." And that was the moment Jake Harlan stopped being the loudmouth and started being something else. Over the next few weeks, Ironwood changed. Not the buildings, not the drills, but the way people moved, the way they talked. Lena didn't take a rank, didn't wear a uniform, didn't sign back up. But every morning at 0430, she'd unlock the armory, lay out rifles on 3 benches, and wait. First, it was just Jake and an older contractor named Sam Ruiz, a quiet guy with his own trident tattoo, faded from years in the sun. Then a few SEAL recruits showed up, curious about the ghost lady. Then more. They called it Phantom Hour, not because Lena said to, but because it fit. She didn't yell, didn't lecture, just showed them how to move, how to feel the weapon, how to respect it. One mistake, she'd correct it once, and it stuck like gospel. Then one morning, she was gone. The armory was open, the rifles laid out, but Lena wasn't there. Jake found a duffel on her bench, olive green, folded tight. Inside, her tools, a clean sidearm, a photo of 7 figures in dusty gear, one woman in the center, her face half turned, and a note, for words, "Pass it the right way." Taped to the photo was an Overwatch coin, the kind only a few ever earn. Sam held it, his voice low. "She's not coming back." Jake didn't argue. He just picked up the first rifle and started the drills. Phantom Hour went on, with or without her. Months later, a new recruit, a young corporal named Mia Torres, stayed after a session, staring at the coin now nailed to Lena's bench. "My brother had one like that," she said. "Said it came from someone who saved his squad." Jake nodded. "Then you're in the right place." That night, He walked to the edge of the base, where a stone wall held old unit patches. He pulled out Lena's name tag, worn and faded, and pinned it with a bolt from her kit. Below it, he wrote 2 words, "Still watching." Lena Carter didn't need a statue or a headline. She was in the way a rifle felt when it was cleaned right, in the silence of a recruit learning to listen, in the respect that grew where mockery used to live. She wasn't a ghost because she disappeared. She was a ghost because she stayed in every bolt, every bench, every soldier who learned what it meant to carry a name. So what do you think? Did Lena do the right thing, walking away, leaving her legacy in the shadows? Or should she have stayed, taken the spotlight, claimed the honor she earned? Drop a comment. Tell me what hit you hardest about her story, or if you've ever met someone like her, someone who changed everything without saying a word. Like, share, subscribe to Veteran Biker for more stories that cut deep, and let's keep the conversation going. Who's the quiet hero in your life?